same way, for example, you go to a branding specialist for your branding or a website specialist for your website, you need to find a specialist in the areas of mental and emotional well-being to support you in those areas.
Well, hi, Linda. Thanks for joining us on the show.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
Yeah. So we often talk a lot about in business, it's all hustle, 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 get the job done. And it's all about making sales and growing the business. But we don't spend a lot of time thinking about how it's affecting us personally. And so how do you come in and help businesses or business owners to slow down and really focus on their mental health?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really talk to people about why their mental health has a direct impact on their business. We were just talking a moment ago about the fact that quite often people are business. They're in their tools, tools are all out doing what they do. And then we have this kind of weird separation between that and actually taking care of ourselves. And the reality is that if we are not sustainable, then our business is not sustainable. So healthy people build businesses faster, better, with a lot less pain and angst. So that's a primary message that I actually share with business owners.
And how do you, because we've got guys like Gary Vaynerchuk just talking about go, 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 go. So what's the first part of the process? What do you do to slow down and actually check in with yourself, I guess?
And that's a really, it's such a great question, because I think what happens is when we're in the mindset of go, 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 we actually forget that that is not something that can go on for a really long time. So when we're in it, we're all in it, it's all consuming, and we actually forget that at some point in time we have to refuel. So the first thing that I would say to people is if you're noticing that you're not creative, that you can't problem solve in the way that you used to, that your connections with your team or with family members even is starting to kind of get a little bit off track, that is the time to really do a personal check-in. And what that means is basically just a self-assessment. Am I sleeping well? Am I eating well? Am I, loving the people that are around me that I should be caring about? Am I getting feedback that I'm hard to be with? Those sorts of really simple questions can give us an idea as to whether we're functioning well and as to whether we can sustain those periods of really high intensity within our business. And we all have them, but we also need to refuel as we're moving through those processes.
Yeah, great. I think you just listed off everything I went through in my first business. So
yes,
that's a really valid point.
This is not an unfamiliar story for any business owner, that kind of deep entrenchment in the build. But for us to be able to do that and to stay well and to continue to do it, we must check in with ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we check in with ourselves?
Well, it's asking those questions of other people that you trust, essentially, and also checking in on, your productivity is a great way to really check in to see whether your energy levels, whether your mind state is on track, your motivation, whether you are maintaining healthy habits or whether you're starting to slip into those habits that can really impact us. And when we're I guess, overwhelmed, or when we're experiencing stress, or when we're experiencing anxiety, our behavior will often be an indicator that we're not traveling well. So we might be dipping into those behaviors that we know aren't good for us, like eating extra chocolate, drinking too much coffee or alcohol. And then, we start to move into some of those more extreme addictive behaviors that we also know rationally aren't good for us, but emotionally we reach for them to try to sort of ameliorate the stress that we're experiencing.
Okay, so if I've identified that I'm doing some of these behaviors, that I've lost energy, productivity, and motivation. What's the first step to So now I've identified it. What do I do to address it?
Yes, so owning it is definitely step number one. Recognizing that you need to make some changes is number two, and then finding resources that you feel will actually fit for you personally. So our mental health and well-being, our emotional health and well-being is a very personal journey, and it's really important that we find those people that we can resonate with, that are going to support us in those particular ways. So in the same way, for example, you go to a branding specialist for your branding or a website specialist for your website, you need to find a specialist in the areas of mental and emotional well-being to support you in those areas. Relationship is really key in this area. So knowing that you are talking to a person that you feel you can relate to, who understands your experience, is a great way to test whether that person is for you.
Yeah. Okay. So how much, I mean, because this is coming from someone who was flat out working up to 16, 17 hours a day sometimes. And you know that you feel stressed, you know that you're under the pump and under pressure. Where do you find, or how much time? Because I know that would be in the back of my head is, well, I've got no more time left to give. How do I find the time to focus on those issues? And how do those issues resonate through the rest of the business? I guess, like you said, the problem solving isn't there. I know for me, my temper was up here. So every time the staff members,
short fuse,
very short fuse, and wasn't the best leader I could have been because of that, and didn't mentor the staff the way I should have because of the other stresses going on. So I guess we find that one person, and then how do we find the time to actually dedicate to it? Do we have to schedule it in every week? What's the process?
You hit the nail on. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, just lost you there for a second.
Okay, sorry about that. I think the thing about this is, first of all, recognizing that you are being impacted and what that impact is on your business, on your motivation, on your productivity, on your results. Then it's really about deciding that if this was another person, what advice would you give to them? Because we're so good at like giving out the advice but not taking on our own our own advice, right?
Absolutely.
Then we would look at actually scheduling this in the same way that you would schedule in, say, a dentist's appointment or a doctor's appointment, or getting your car fixed, or taking your kids to their parent-teacher interviews. We have to create a structure around our well-being to have it happen. And a big part of that is the formulation of habits that actually allow us to continually participate in our well-being. And, I hear people all the time saying, I just don't have time for it. Well, I think the reality needs to be that if you don't make time for it, you actually run out of time a lot faster than people who do find time for it. So scheduling it into your calendar as a priority is something that I'm constantly, hammering on about, basically. We have to take this seriously if we want to, be someone that's there for the long term in a healthy way. Plenty of business owners who are there, but they're in a really unhealthy state, and that way is disaster, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I could talk about this for another hour and a half, but we don't.
Me too.
We just have these small snippets for business insights. So where can people go to find out more information if they're feeling these tensions?
Yeah. So to contact me, for example, you can just go to my website, drlindawilson.com. But I also want to put a shout out there for those people who are really struggling, connect into support services like Lifeline, like Beyond Blue. If you need those kind of resources, please don't wait, reach out. And then, of course, there is a myriad of different organisations and individuals and people and practices that you can explore for to really support you on your wellness journey.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Linda. That's been really helpful.
My pleasure. Lovely to chat with you today.